Hey, what's going on, everyone? I am Botch TV, and we are here with another character profile. We have, this time, the enigmatic stargazer, Scarlet Nova. So, Scarlet Nova, her character idea, or her character came to fruition because of Chris Statlander. I was a huge fan of Chris. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting Chris Statlander at an AEW event, and I loved her alien gimmick. I thought it was unique and very, very different compared to what you used to see in wrestling. And I kind of ran with it. But instead of Scarlet Nova being, weird and doing, booping and a lot of alien-like things like Chris Statlander used to do, it really stems from her fascination of space because of the possibilities that we have in space, which are pretty much endless. We haven't really explored much of our solar system and much of space because it's just so big and vast, and it's a world that she can get lost in, and it's kind of an escape from her unfortunate reality of her mother, who is battling alcoholism. She is financially supporting her mother due to her alcoholism habits, and she is living with this moral dilemma of her going on to the next chapter of her life and leaving her mother. But also, on the other hand, that's the person who gave her life. That's the person who put her into this world. Without her father in the picture, she only really has her mother. And, Scarlet being 19, 20 years old, that is a very young age, and that is, your prime is in your 20s, and you're trying to essentially start your own life and get a career and everything else. And she ends up, training to be a wrestler. Eventually, Sky Outlaw, our head of talent relations, gets a hold of her and signs her to a contract. So she's making big money. By the time you're watching this, she's already debuted and already ready to go. And, what you see is Scarlet, getting all these big money paychecks and not really knowing what to do with them because of the moral dilemma that she has of wanting her to start her own life and really looking inside herself to find out who she is, and really not allowing her mother to really influence her life's decisions. But at the same time, that's still her mother. That's still somebody that has given her life. And where that story had come from was from a personal experience of mine with my own grandmother. My own grandmother has had problems with alcohol. I lived with her for 2 to 3 years before moving out of her place, and this was after my grandfather had a couple of strokes, and I had to help her. And, I was basically financially supporting my own grandmother until I moved out of New York, moved out of my home state to the great state of Texas. And, my mother and I are very, very happy, and we're trying to start our own lives without having those stressors in our lives. My mother wanted me to have more than just being in New York State and being in my, hometown or being away. And they always say moving away from your hometown is always good. So that's really where the story came from. A lot of these stories come from my own personal life as a way to make these characters more real, but also it's like an outlet for me. I know that some people may have experienced alcoholism themselves or have known a friend or family that has experienced the demons of addiction and depression and all that stuff. And, with Scarlet's moral dilemma, that's what I was stuck with, was, trying to do my own life and helping out my grandmother, somebody who has essentially been a second mother to me, who has helped me a lot throughout my life. And, I had to make the decision of moving to Texas with my mom because I knew that I had to get out of that environment. And you see with Scarlet, with the tattoos, I went ahead and I actually edited her tattoos. So the tattoos that you see, at least on camera, fully, or on this screen here, they all come from the Wonder app, which is an AI art app that creates art. And so I did that UFO thing. I created 2 UFOs and told it to create like an astronaut head, and I did that, and it created that. And I found this like galaxy supernova type picture for the attire and just plastered it all over her attire. She also has a futuristic cyberpunk-esque attire where, you know, she's got like makeup and white hair instead of pink hair, and, you know, her contact lenses are different, so her eyes look more futuristic and robotic and AI type thing. And, you know, choosing the voice for her, which you guys are going to be able to hear shortly, after everything, depending on what time you're watching this, you know, she's already debuted. But choosing the voice for her, I wanted her to be like, you know, have that like innocent type, like, you know, higher pitched type voice, to where, you know, she sounds like a person who is a teenager or somebody who is in her mid-20s. And, you know, that trying to find a voice that just went with it was a little bit difficult, but I'm glad I was able to find one. And Scarlet ends up meeting, you know, Brian Outlaw and the Outlaws, and making a name for herself in RCW, which I know she will end up doing, in terms of, if all goes according to plan in terms of the storylines. So for her signature maneuvers, she has the UFO cutter, and then she has what I like to call Into the Cosmos, which is like an airplane spin, you know, into like some type of TKO type of maneuver. And, you know, she ends up using space and finding all these, you know, possibilities, and just having her mind just be lost in the world that she loves of pro wrestling and space travel and the idea of life on other planets. You know, stuff that we as humans, you know, we get lost in when we're trying to get away from our problems of everyday life and trying to focus on, you know, things other than what's going on in our heads or in our lives that may upset us or trigger us. So for Scarlet, you know, this is a huge thing for her, and she's going to play a major role in Brian Outlaw's life, and he is going to play a major role in her life as well, to where, you know, they get real close, and you'll see that as time goes on. And, you know, you'll see this sense of vulnerability that comes out of the both of them that is very uncharacteristic of themselves personally, because they bring that out. They have this like tough exterior, this border wall essentially around their hearts, and each of them, Brian and Scarlet, are kind of just chipping away at each other's border walls, trying to break that down to get to the real human being that's underneath all of this tough, resilient exterior. And, you know, you'll find that they realize that caring for each other and being there for one another, having somebody that they can actually count on to be there for them, that isn't blood related or anything like that, is something that they both have strived for. Because obviously Scarlett's father not being in the picture, Brian Outlaw's father not being in the picture either. So, you know, they have a lot of things in common. And, you know, in terms of their childhoods, and, you know, kind of have to growing up so quick, and them being the adults rather than the other way around. And, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, kind of messes with the both of them mentally as they go through life. Brian being 23 to 24 years old, you know, and Scarlet being in her 20s or just hitting her 20s as well. So, you know, this is a huge like wake up call for them because they're like, I'm only 20, you know. I shouldn't be having to deal with this, or I'm only in my 20s. I shouldn't be having to deal with all these problems with my family. I should be getting to know my own life and getting to do things in my own life and focusing on my own life and prolonging my life and trying to get a career or continuing my career as a wrestler and doing my thing and possibly maybe starting a family of my own along one day. And so, you know, you see all of these things clash with them, the moral dilemmas of helping out other people that they care about. But they also have the dilemma of, can I be vulnerable? Can I trust this person? So they both have trust issues, but they end up banding together as a unit and, you know, as coworkers. And, you know, they end up sharing their deepest demons with each other and eventually battling those demons and helping each other and healing each other and healing together. Because they both realize, you can't fix me. I have to fix me. But just know that I'll be there if you need anybody. And it's the sort of like caring nature that they both have for just people, to where they, you know, see it as a strength rather than a weakness, even though that people have misused their kindness or their trust for their own evil purposes. And I'm really excited for you guys to see the story of Scarlet Nova and to see how this affects both Scarlet and Brian Outlaw as things go on. Let me know what other character profiles you guys want to see. I still have plenty of them to go. I love doing these because it gives you a little bit more of an insight on the characters. If you enjoyed this, please don't hesitate to leave a like, comment, subscribe, as we're on the road to 1,000 subs. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.